Good afternoon, I'm George Sanchez. I'm conducting my capstone presentation for graduation requirement for Keiser University. Good afternoon, Dr. Renzi, Teresa, and Maritza. Today I'm going to talk about the path for eliminating police brutality. Some of the topics, you guys can see it on the screen. So, what is police brutality? So, police brutality is the excessive force utilized by police officers towards civilians. So, in other words, we have tools that requires batons, tasers, pepper spray, and those are examples of police brutality in a way, or in a physical in nature. Next slide. The police officer, we have levels of force within the authority. We have verbal restraint, physical restraint, less lethal force, and lethal force. The verbal restraint is when we tell the individuals that you are under arrest, so we scream and yell, you're under arrest. So physical restraining when we put our hands on them and we handcuff them or we put them on the police car. We have less than lethal force, which is the weapons that we use, like pepper spray and tasers. So, and the lethal force that we use is when we're actually shooting the individual or we restrain them, put them on the floor, and things like that. Next slide. The police culture, there is a change that needs to be happening within the departments, because as far as the police brutality, we had a few individuals like Rodney King in March 1991, Michael Brown, August 9, 2014, that was shot by a police officer 6 times in the front. And then we had Eric Gardner in July 17, 2014, which he dies actually 15 seconds later after he was put on a shock hold from a police officer. So the recent statistics shows that the shootings are on the rise from police officers. Next slide. The culture impacts in a new direction. So there's a lot of negativity from the publics in our communities, the way they see the police officers. So we have to start reversing that to make sure that they trust in the police officers, so we can gain their support and respect as well. So all that excessive force that we use sometimes, it has to be controlled and restrained. So the police officers, we have to use more evaluation with the new recruits coming to the department, and supervision for all of them. Next slide. We also have the current police culture that is a male-dominated, which is actually have more aggression and competition with other police officers. So all that has to be stopped as well. Next slide. We also have the counter effect with the females and minorities. So on the traditional police culture, there's encourage of segregation, prejudice, and bias against the female police officers in minority groups. So they have to be treated equally. Next slide. Why did this happen? The effects on the public. How did that the public perceive the police officers? So there is a lack of accountability and transparency with some police departments. So we have to start learning how to be look more proactive with the community when we use our body cameras and stuff like that. So things that make us more believable for the things that we do as police officers. So instead of having the public or the community see us as a quasi-military organization, because we use a lot of weapons that they're more used for conventional warfare. So there's a lot of more complaints and a lot of more complaints and more deteriorating the trust from the public. Next slide. Now, we also have within the departments the police culture. So the values that we have as far as socialization, training, relationship with the communities and the people that we serve, all these changes, they gotta start with the top leadership. So they have to start creating those policies that can be more clear for us to understand so we can enforce them. So if they want to have clear expectations about the policies that they do, they have to understand that they have to understand us too as well. Next slide. So all those realistic expectations with the leadership, they set the standards for all the police officers. So, and that being said, that all the force that we use, it can be used for de-escalating situations if we are well trained on that matter. So we can also comply with the policies. It makes it more easy for us to understand how the department runs internally. Next slide. So the challenging cultural changes. So the candidate, when they do a recruitment, they have to make sure that they have emotional stability and they have to be objective to decision-making process. So they have to have the ability to react in situations that they are very stressful. So they have to be making decisions right away in a blink of an eye. So they have to understand how to utilize their common sense in those situations. Next slide. The changes that affects everyone, the community and the police officers. So this is it's very evident that we have to be treating all the people that we arrest more fair and with respect. Don't have to be using, our weapons or tasers or anything. So we have to understand that, everybody is watching us, what we do. So that way they know that we're very legitimate authority and know like we're there for using force in the people or in the public. Next slide. So the police academies nowadays, they are using more hours to train the police officers, but they have to start training them how to use the force in de-escalating situations to control offenders. So this is very important. Next slide. So one innovative approach that we have, the scholars or professionals, they have to make this solving disputes within the victims and the police officer and the escalating situation. So they deal with the people that have mental problems, they have drug abuse people, school shooting, gang members and stuff like that. So we have to take that in consideration as well. Next slide. The President Task Force 21st Century Policing. So it recommends new and better training for police officers, including how they communicate in a crisis response. They emphasize how the escalating skills that they can utilize for that, and they can also it helps to do quieter tones with the public or with the suspect. So we also have to limit the use of sirens and the lights in the patrol cars, because the citizens, they get feared when they see all this patrols going over 100 miles an hour chasing somebody, which could lead into a catastrophic accident. So we have to start providing more, rebuilding the public trust with the community so we can have good relations with them and more support from the public. Next slide. Then we have to use the 5 basic tool, which is listen. You have to look and listen when you're talking to the individuals. You have to empathize with them, which you have to not just agree, but you have to understand as a perspective that they trying to tell you. And then we have to ask questions about how, where, when, and how things happen is important, because all that you have to put them in your report. And in paraphrase, you have to understand dialogue that you're having with the individual. So you have to repeat sometimes the words that they said. That's fine. And then at the end we have to summarize and make everything more brief. So we have to take the opportunity to educate people to have a better and positive influence to at the end for the department. Next slide. So instead of having a warrior's attitude effect on the public, we have to make sure that we develop a better and more softer attitude with them. So I'm not using the warrior attitude as being fear with the public, and we having more complaints and settlements that we have to pay in the court. So the police has to start increasing the force to overcome all those obstacles. Next slide. And so instead of using the warrior's attitude, we have the guardian attitude, which is focused more on the treating the public with more respect, more fair, and like I said, we're a professional agency where we have to exercise the good judgment and self-control to de-escalating situations when in the events of any incidents that we have. So we also have to reduce the resistance and gaining more compliance utilizing those forces, the excessive force. So one of the goal during the trainings that we do is that we have to provide the tactical tools and strategies for the police officers to avoid misconduct and de-escalating situations that are sometimes they just come, they're unknown. They come anytime. So we're doing a patrol and all of a sudden we have a situation, so we have to know how to react to that. So we have to be prepared to for real world situations. So those decisions that we take in a split of a second, so it's very important. So we have to know how to react to that. Next slide. The police leadership. So the crucial for the efforts that we do to eliminate the police brutality. So with that being said, most of the relationship that they have with the leaderships and the subordinates, they have to understand how do we feel and what kind of training that we do, and if we're getting promoted or if we're not, they have to start acting in better ways, so that way that we know that they care for us, and then that we're complying with their regulations and the policies that they have. So that way as well, they have to have better treatment for women and minorities within the departments. Next slide. So as far as the body cameras and stuff like that, so the top leadership, they have a different perception for the body worn cameras. So some of them they agree, some of them they don't, but in reality, this is more as that we have to gain the compliance with the camera policy, that it is a good thing actually, because it'll tend to curb police brutality, because they know that they're being watched, so they're more careful about reacting in different situations, so they de-escalate those situations like that. Next slide. The tasers, the same thing, they become very popular in an alternative to the physical use of force. Instead of putting people on the ground, we use the taser. So it's it helps a lot to the police officers to de-escalate situations. Next slide. So the citizens actually, they're being targeted nowadays, so they don't feel right, they don't feel secure. So they have to assure that we are professionals and that we are treating them with respect and efficiently. Next slide. we have to start implementing the community policy with, being more transparent with them, and eliminating the excessive use of force. Next slide. So our change in the police culture is a path eliminating police brutality and gaining control and compliance and support. That was the conclusion of my presentation. Any questions, I'll be willing to answer after I'm done.